Let's get you to your top story. LA County's new district attorney meeting with the family of the guys I was just talking about, Erik and Lyle Menendez, as the DA continues his review for their bid for freedom. These convicted killers have been behind bars for over 3 decades. Allegations of sexual abuse at the hands of their father, Jose, are what's at the center of the brothers' request for release. Friday, DA Nathan Hochman gave an update on the case and his takeaways from the meeting with the extended Menendez family.
A number of the victim family members came in. It was a very productive session where they gave me all their thoughts about what should happen in this case, their experiences that they wanted to share, the ultimate direction that they wanted this case to go. And so it was a very productive conversation over a number of hours. Again, I invite and have continued to invite any additional victim family member, and I think virtually all of them were there today, that wanted to speak with me, And that forms part of the information data set that we will use to determine what the right result should be.
Now, Hawkman also said, quote, approximately 25 members of the Menendez family were present at the nearly 3-hour-long meeting, and no decision has been made yet on the recommendation. The hearing is scheduled for later this month, January 30th and 31st. Mark your calendar on this one. And again, it's a recommendation to the court. The judge doesn't have to follow it, but it could certainly influence the court heavily if the DA's office is in agreement with what the family has been advocating for. Now, do you think DA Hochman has already made up his mind on this case? That's a fair question, right? What do you think about that? He's also reviewing confidential information, transcripts, all sorts of things in the office right now, prison records for these guys. Do you think he knows what he's going to do and he's just not saying? Let's talk about it with our guests. Let's bring in our legal eagles now. High-profile attorneys Tommy Pope and Kirk Nurmi on the program. Good morning to you both. Okay, so let's start with that question. Do we think the DA knows what he's going to do and he's just not saying? Kirk Nurmi, would you start us off with your thoughts, please?
You know, I'm not sure, because this is different, and I disagree with a lot of your opening statement, frankly, but one of the things that I think is different about this case is the part I agree with your opening statement is it's not about Kitty and Jose, it's not even about Lyle and Erik now. It's about the political environment that this Netflix special gave rise to. So how that political environment is now, is in 30 days from now, I think that's going to inform the decision a lot, because this is about the politics of it all and less about the case. We could talk about not being able to present a defense, things of that nature, and all those things might be going into the calculus, but in the end, I think we saw, once this Netflix special arose, we saw outgoing DA Gascon as well as Mr. Hochman kind of arguing over this, and it became ultimately a political question, not necessarily a legal question.
Kirk, thank you for that. Tommy Pope, same question to you, please. Do you think the DA knows what he's going to do on January 30th?
I think he probably has a good feel. I was thinking there were some parallels with my Smith case. You know, I met with the family as much as anything out of courtesy, so it didn't appear that I was being narrow-minded. I probably went too far. I said, I'll talk to anybody, and the defense loaded me up with people that I had to talk to. But I think he's, you know, the prosecutor's job is different. The prosecutor's job is to seek the truth. It's not to defend one side or another. And so I think he's touching on the bases. He probably has a feel of how he wants to go, but hopefully is staying open-minded enough. If he's presented with the right information, it can change that. I do agree with Kurt, and it concerns me not so much about this prosecutor, but in general, we've talked before, justice is supposed to be blind. When we start having these cases based on a Netflix special or media pressure, or, you know, like you look at all the stuff going on with the Karen Reed case, it really taints justice if you're not very, very careful, and it makes everybody's job, particularly the prosecutor, so much more difficult.
It really does. Well said, Tommy. I've got another clip I want to play now. This is from the press conference that Nathan Hochman did after that meeting on Friday, and here he's clarifying statements he's made about the brothers' cases being separated. Take a look.
So you would look at each individual crime, and then each individual for the resentencing's rehabilitation. Now, that might lead you to the same results. It might lead you to different results. And I'm not here to predetermine where we're going to end up for each individual defendant and each individual crime. That's what this analysis is all about.
Oh, okay, so great point there. You know, we think of these two as a package deal, don't we? Lyle and Erik, you know, the brothers. We have that picture that burned in our brains, I think, from them sitting there together at trial. But separate cases, so doesn't mean the same recommendation for these guys. Kirk Nurmi, back to you. Do you think the DA would be making different recommendations here for them?
It's possible. I think it's a very reasoned approach. And again, it goes back to the politics of it all, right? The appearance, what is he saying to the public? What is he saying standing from the podium and talking about these things? Trying to appear that whatever decision he makes is well-reasoned decision so he can sell it to the public. If there is a distinction, perhaps he will make that difference. I don't know, but we have to also remember his advocacy only means so much. This is ultimately up to the judge. How will the judge see it? How will this be intertwined? How will the lack of evidence that they will present related to sexual abuse, how will that factor into these things? So ultimately, it's going to be the judge is going to make the decision, and he's going to present a well-reasoned front. But whatever it is, ultimately, it's going to matter how the judge sees these two, how intertwined they are.
Mm-hmm. Right. Tommy Pope, you have been a DA in South Carolina. They call it the solicitor in the state, run the office. So you've been in the position that Nathan Hochman is in. When he says he's reviewing all sorts of pieces of information right now, would you kind of walk us through some of the things that he may be paying most close attention to? You know, he says he's talking with DAs who've handled the case since its inception. He's talking or reading rather trial transcripts, prison records. What are the big things you're going to look at, please?
I think he's drilling down to what is the truth, not what we've been told. In other words, not what has been sensationalized, perhaps in a Netflix documentary or something that's been reported in the media. You know, I keep talking about the Karen Reed thing, but I'm not sure I know what factually is going on the outside, you know, from all the different things you see and read. So I think what he's trying to do, because, you know, you realize he won an election, so he's coming into the office, is to really get a grasp on what the truth was. You and I talked one time before, there were things going on in my case that I couldn't say ethically until we got in the courtroom. And so there may be things that are true, that aren't true, but, you know, he's doing a good job of standing up there and being objective, not shooting down things that, you know, he may do later. You know, the press conference isn't the place to do it, the courtroom is.
Mm-hmm. Right, Tommy, you're exactly right. That's where the cases should be tried.